Good morning, colleagues. Buongiorno. Welcome to those who have arrived today to our Eden 2007 conference on New Learning 2.0 ? I'm very pleased to be able to chair this first session. My name is Alan Tate. I'm one of the vice presidents of Eden, and I'm from the Open University UK. We have an exciting group of speakers for you to begin our conference. A combination of authority with the new and authority with the established. And I would like to begin, without further ado, to ask Teemu to speak.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, I'm going to start my presentation, which is about Serendipity 2.0, the missing third places of learning. So this is me. I'm interested in networks, learning, complexity, and the business side, but also the academic side. I started my company when I was 16 years old. The reason was that the educational system wasn't supporting my personal learning. So I started my personal learning environment, and I find it quite funny that personal learning environment is one of the buzzwords today. So I've been an entrepreneur for the last 8 years, so 1/3 of my life has been the business and also the curiosity of finding what's going on in our world today. So the company I run is Dicole, Discover, Collaborate, Learn. And well, those 3 words pretty much describe what I want to achieve. I come from Finland, from Helsinki. That's where I come from. It's nice to be here in Italy. I appreciate the opportunity. What I want to present to you, may I introduce Marshall McLuhan, who lived in the beginning of the 20th century. And he's one of the most influential people of media and related research. He invented words like surfing and global village. And many people who read his stories thought he was talking about TV. But if you look at Marshall McLuhan's text today, you understand and realize that what he's talking about is the internet, and especially the social web and Wikipedia and all those things, mass materialization. Well, here's one quote from him. Today, each of us lives several hundred years in a decade. What that means is that the increasing amount of information and changes in our society are exponential. And we are in a situation where what we learn in school is much more quickly outdated. The half-life of knowledge is shrinking. And the problem is that the educational system's ability to adapt to those changes is, well, it's always lacking behind because we have to interpret the changes. And the idea that we learn just in case, and then when you get out of school, it's just about applying what you have learned just in case. And in real situations, we have to move to something that is just in time. But there is something we have to think how we can really get forward and figure out what is the next way of learning. And that's why I'm talking about serendipity. But let me introduce another person called Ray Oldenburg. He talks about third places. So the idea is that people sometimes have to escape the demands of their family, which is the first place, the home, and the workplace, the demands of their employer or school or teachers. The third place is where they can share conversations with different people. Traditionally, these have been cafes and pubs and, well, piazzas, plazas like here in Italy. But nowadays, it's the internet is the major third place, and it's competing, I think, with the second place and its position in the society. The decentralized web is increasingly shaking the rigid hierarchies and centralized models. What third places have been about is informal learning. So the idea of cafes and water coolers as the informal gathering places. And we have to figure out also how our companies can really, and our organizations can take an advantage of this possibility of informal learning. And here in this picture, well, there is the traditional way of thinking of the web inside an organization. You have the corporate internet, one big megaphone that is supposed to provide all the information to the employees. But really, smart companies figure out that the real resource they have is their people and how to tap into the, you could say, collective intelligence, but the real resource is the shared knowledge building abilities of those people. So giving everyone the same size of a megaphone, a blog, and a wiki, and coming up with conversations that are the stem cells of innovation. Let me introduce another thing. Well, Serendip. Let me tell you a story where it comes from. Serendip is the old name of Sri Lanka. And the idea is that serendipity is the art of making an unsought finding. So coming up with something else while you're working on something totally different. And Horace Walpole told a story of three princes of Serendip who were always looking for something else and always accidentally figured out something totally different. And many innovations in our society and advancements in science have been based on accidental discoveries. And if you think our educational system, we are defining the outcome beforehand, rather than letting serendipity take its place and real ideas find their place through the conversation, through interaction. Well, think what could be the opposite of serendipity? The opposite of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, warm, nice country with a living ecosystem. What would be the opposite? A cold, barren, icy, rocky country or place? Well, it's not Finland, I tell you. Well, we have Finnish sauna, and Finnish saunas have been the serendiptic places where people meet and share conversations. But there's also more. Actually, the Finnish sauna is also the source of the spirit and life. One of the most beautiful words in Finnish is löön. When you throw water on stones, you get löön, the steam. But it's actually the spirit or life of the sauna and life itself. So we have beautiful lakes as well. Well, the opposite is Nova Zembla in the icy sea in the north. And our education system is victim to a lot of templanity. Templanity is the opposite of serendipity. William Boyd writes, call it sembla ergo, templanity, the opposite of serendipity, the faculty of making unhappy, unlucky, and expected discoveries by design. And that's what we do when the outcomes and learning results are defined beforehand rather than through the process. Well, how did we get here? Industrial production model. Humans as cogs in the machine and the manager as the source of knowledge, and people having different meanings for what they do. If you ask one guy in a factory, what are you doing? He would say, well, I'm putting bricks on top of other bricks. If you ask the second guy, he might say, I'm building a wall. The third guy might say, I'm building a cathedral. But it doesn't really matter. You have a very clearly defined job in which you engage in. We took this model. It enabled a lot of things. It allowed us to build the infrastructure around us. But we applied this logic to learning as well. So we have the source material, the raw material, students coming in, going into this magnificent apparatus called the school, where we throw simplified realities, simplified objects, learning object, if you will, nowadays, filling empty containers. And then you have the outcome, more cogs for the machine, where people work in hierarchical organizations, have clearly defined jobs, and started operational procedures. And you have the managers on the top using decision-making material, sitting on top of a cloud of delusion. But really, bureaucracy doesn't work because people have a natural tendency to resist bureaucracy. A lot of things in the workplace require improvisation. And improvisation always disrupts routines. And what people do when they do their job very well, they sort of hide their improvisation by making it look like routine. I know many of you have probably done that, figuring out how to circle around different obstacles, different procedures in your organizations. and make it look like routine so that you are not improvising, because improvisation is not a good thing in an orchestrated system. But well, the lateral links, not just the longitudinal links between people and processes, are important. So the lateral links between people who are working on the same thing, sharing conversation and feeling the stories of each other is increasingly important. What Marshall McLuhan also said, that the mark of our time is its revolution, or you could also say revolt against the imposed patterns. Because learning requires that you are not just repeating the same thing over and over again, but look for different perspectives, different points of view to the task at hand. Marshall McLuhan also came up with the word pattern recognition. And the idea is that things are sometimes not just cause and effect, that something leads to another things. But when he described his scientific method, it was more like probing, pattern recognition. You take totally unrelated things and see how they fit together, like this presentation that I've created. So it doesn't make sense sometimes if you look close for the atoms or pixels. And a lot of information is like that. Think of the TV screen, one pixel in a TV screen. If you see only a few pixels, you don't see the image. But if you start to see like 80%, you start to figure out what it means. And the blogosphere and blogging is exactly that. If you get more blog posts and you see more patterns, you see fragmented pieces of information, you start to build stories around those pieces. And you come up with new images, new different perspectives. So knowledge becomes a hologram. It changes depending on what direction you are looking at it. So information overload is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be an opportunity. You have to change and shift your relationship with knowledge and information. So where are we? Well, we are not really anymore in the industrial production life, but post-industrial society based on knowledge, immaterial things, and intangible assets. So we are like bees. We collect information from the markets, the flowers over there, and we bring it in our base, and we try to shift and turn it into something that we understand, make it actionable, so that the other part of the organization, it feels some part of the story over there. But we also try to protect it. We have a corporate firewall consisting of sales and marketing and legal and public relationships. Try to keep the customers and partners out. But really, we have to get into the conversation, figure out, make sense, because a lot of problems in business processes can be traced back to problems in sense-making, in the lateral links between people, not just the process of A, B, C, D, but what happens in B and C. So what's the dimensions there? If you lose tacit knowledge, the real expertise in your organization, well, that's what happens, rest in peace. But you have to go towards a more collaborative world. Technology extends our body parts, like car extends our legs, and eyeglasses extend our vision, and the phone extends our ears. So does the fiber optics, the network, the virtual reality extend our bodies, but also our minds. Let me introduce you to human evolution from Homo habilis to Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. Our brain size increased between these different definitions of human being. Homo habilis was the handyman. He used tools. Then Homo erectus started to use advanced tools, not just rocks, but maybe axes. And Homo sapiens, which are us, art, writing, and speech, which enabled us to think in abstract terms, imagine things that don't exist, that are not in just based on sensory observations, but are distributed. And what people do with tools, these tools shape us. We shape our tools, and then the tools shape us. What this means, think, for example, the electric lamp. When it was invented, it was not the technology that was important, but what people did with the technology. We shaped ourselves by using these tools. So the electric lamp lighted rooms and spaces and areas that were not lighted before. So we figured out totally new dimensions where to work and think and do things never thought before. And that was part of our industrial revolution as well. We all stay awake late So the electric lamp creates new spaces, and so does the internet as a new medium, create new spaces which didn't exist before. And in the process, it will transform our society to something totally different, which we can't really predict until we are starting to shape ourselves. And that was the symbolic thinking, symbolic abstract concept that people use. For example, ghosts or devils or religions are things that people have imagined, are not just based on sensory input. The spoken word, but also the printing press, transformed our society completely. It brought man a new way to think of the world in new terms. Like Marshall McLuhan would say, the technology by which man was able to let go of his environment in order to grasp it in a new way. So we extend our bodies through technology, and we create new things that make us different from other species. We have language, we have clothes, we have belief systems, we have different points of view. We can use binoculars, we can use telescopes, we can use microscopes to see the world in a totally different way. And so does the internet and the social web change how we see the world today. This time has been described with different terms during recent ages. For example, man to player. Play is very important to learning. And Sami Inkinen has thought about Homo creativus, the creative human, interested in creating new things, or the knowledge-intensive human interested in also in the aesthetics of what he is doing and extending himself through knowledge. But we also go in a direction where we start to implant ourselves with technology. So it really becomes an extension of the nervous system. Teilhard de Chardin was one inspiration source for Marshall McLuhan's thinking. He came up with the term noosphere. Nous is Latin, it means mind, so mind sphere, the planetary thinking network, interlinked system of consciousness and information. Think of the internet. Global net of self-awareness, instantaneous feedback. Think of blogosphere, think of Wikipedia, think of anything that is rapidly developing. Anyone can change it instantly. We can link people together. It's a planetary communication system. We distribute our cognition. Learning is not just in your head, between your ears, but we actually distribute what we do on tools of thinking. Physical tools like writing enabled us to think in new terms. We have mental models like physics or philosophy or pick any abstract way of thinking. A mental model that enabled us to solve problems of much larger magnitude. We also use our friends. We distribute what we know in a network of people. When you start to solve a problem, you just don't try to do it yourself always, but sometimes you think if someone else could be better in solving this problem. So you in this country, this world, somewhere. And the technology, the internet, reduces the transaction cost of collaboration and interaction. So it really, electricity becomes an extension of the nervous system. And increasingly all of these are becoming virtual. What does it mean? We need a new term to describe Homo sapiens. And I will now define the next evolutionary step for human being, Homo contextus. Contextus is Latin, it means connected or weaved together. It's a human being who is using connections to create and understand the world in a new way. Context is also used in English to describe the circumstances in which an event occurs. So what is happening? If from Homo habilis to Homo sapiens, our brain size increased physically. From Homo sapiens to Homo contextus, our brain size increases virtually. Some researchers say that their current design of the brain, as it is now, it can increase in size and physical size only 3 times more. But through virtual means, we can actually extend our cognition almost indefinitely. So this is a connected human, escaping the physical limitations of human communication and connectivity with modern network technologies. Just as the light goes through fiber optics 7 times around our globe in a second, it extends our consciousness through the social web. Just like the mechanical age and industrial age extended our bodies, So the axe was an extension of the arm. The electronic age will extend our nervous system. Homo contextus has a connectivity focus, focuses on connections rather than content. And this is really important if you try to figure out how do you actually cope with information today, how our pedagogical models have to change. I just heard a podcast from an Indian woman. Unfortunately, I don't remember her name, but you probably can find her if you Google slow pedagogy. So in the States, we have slow food to counterpart fast food, something that is efficiently produced and efficiently consumed, something that is more natural, better for the body. So we have to change our thinking of fast pedagogy. A lot of information in the shortest time through our ears to our consciousness and as efficiently as possible through the education system, all the students, to something that is slow pedagogy. Happens outside the school. In third place, it's more naturalistic, more based on how humans actually learn. Things cannot be speed up. Many important observations to learning that point to that learning sometimes cannot be rushed. For example, the rest principle of brains. Well, we think that repetition actually helps us to acquire new skills. For example, language training is often based on repetition of words. And if you don't repeat enough, you forget. But the rest principle states that there is actually a balance between here. If you repeat too often, your synapses, they won't be as responsive as before, and the connections will start to break up. If your synapses are not firing as often as possible, they will die off the connections in your brains. So we need a balance here. Slow pedagogy. Homo contextus. High media production skills, object-centered sociality. This comes from Yuri Engelström. What this means is that Homo contextus focuses also on the ability to create new media objects through which he connects with other people. We never connect directly with each other. We always connect through a social object, some interest, some information, some picture, some image, some blog post, some video clip on YouTube. And we frame those clips, those pictures with communication and interaction. Like blog post could have trackbacks and comments, and a Flickr image could have tags. We frame those things, and the ability to create new social objects through which people are interested in our ideas is increasingly important. We extend our cognitive capabilities to prosthesis of thinking. And if you, in your organization, cut off some of these extensions of mind, like you deny the access of your students to MySpace, you are amputating their cognitive capabilities, their abilities to solve problems through mediums which they are accustomed to. So don't cut off. Think what you are doing when you're trying to resist the new way of thinking and the new media. Students are increasingly parasitic, and this is a good thing. What this means is the learners use someone else as a teacher through virtual means without the knowledge or consensus of the teacher or the host. That's what I do. I use people. I'm parasitic on the web. Those teachers that I figure out and through which I reflect, I have not necessarily agreed that they are teaching me, but I'm using them. And this parasitic learning is enabled through the internet, through this social media. And Ivan Illich defined deschooling society, what a good educational system should have. 3 purposes. Provide all who want to learn with access to available resources at any time in their lives. Empower all who want to share what they know to find those who want to learn it from them. And lastly, furnish all who want to present an issue to the public with the opportunity to make their challenge known. What this means is that if those people who want to teach and have the skill can be linked with those who want to learn, we don't need any educational institutions to do that. We can do it in a decentralized model. We can use parasitic learning. We can use the web and link people together, interest, skills, and wills. I show you an example of third place, empowered by technology. It's from Finland, from the Joensuu Technology Park. It's a space designed to inspire spontaneous and guided encounters with different individuals. And they have a glow tool It's an interface between the physical and the virtual space. The space can be transformed to different kind of things, but it's really interesting what this tool does. When someone enters the space, it's I think it was 1,200 square meters, but anyway, when someone enters it, an RFID tag identifies that someone has entered the space. Here you can see the list view who just recently came in the system. It also enables people to broadcast what they can do, their skills, and also what they would like to learn, their wills. So if you, for example, here is graphic design up there. So a lot of people have skill in it and not as much will. But then, on the other hand, serendipity management, how to manage totally nonlinear things, is something people don't have much skill but are eager to learn. If you want to learn bowling, well, we can see that Nico has a very good skill on bowling, and there are some other people who don't. And you can see the wills, who are the people who want to learn things from those people. So we can link these third places with those who have the skills, with those who have the wills. Where can you build these third places? Think something else than a classroom. Think cafes, think campus, open spaces, piazzas, places which you can wire with technology. And I can't go forward without mentioning my own project, the Dicole knowledge work environment, which I use in organizations. The idea is that it creates totally new dimensions in organizations, a back channel for conversation. It's based on blogs, wikis, and all of that. But what I've noticed is that when I introduce these technologies in these organizations, it brings totally new things. People reveal in this digital medium things they don't reveal face-to-face. The traditional thinking is that web-based or virtual communication never replaces physical communication. But the reality is that it actually extends our physical communication. It really empowers us. People reveal things they don't reveal as easily face-to-face. So we move to a knowledge as a flow. Well, winery, wine, the source of knowledge, you should know when we are in Italy. But anyway, people gather different ingredients and they mix and remix their things. And the process through which they interact with what is the meaning of all of this is iterative. It's not a book. It's not a business plan starting from page 1, ending in page 15. It's not a curriculum in a similar way, a linear process defined beforehand, but a constant, non-linear, dynamic process evolving all the time. You have the history. It's a wiki. It's a multi-dimensional, magical thing through which people interact. And we have the ability to filter the world around us, to connect, to empower our people to new dimensions. So I give you 4 questions in the words of Marshall McLuhan. If some new technology, take New Learning 2.0, the theme of this conference, what does it extend? So what capabilities, human body, mind, what part does it extend? And in the process, what does it make obsolete? What becomes less significant? And also, what new things, what new skills, new abilities, new capabilities are retrieved? And 4, what does it reverse to if it's overextended? For example, if we watch too much television, it can be that we are just drones in front of one-way broadcast machines, which don't empower us anymore. Our health degenerates. So these 4 questions I would like to leave you here. Thank you.
Wow, what a start. Absolutely fascinating and creative. Thank you so much,